Good evening. This is the meeting of the Groton Board of Education being held on November 25th at 6 o'clock at the central office on Flanders Road. The first order on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Jen White will lead us with the pledge.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have all board members in attendance except for Dean and Jay is on his way, I think. The second order is recognition and participation of visitors and delegations. I don't see any unless we're including Sam. Are you a visitor, Sam, today? Okay. The third is comments from citizens in regard to agenda items and other subjects of concern that lie within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. This is the portion in the agenda where the board welcomes comments from citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be related to matters pertinent to Groton. Board members will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and cannot respond during the comments of citizens portion of the board meeting. Citizens should make their presentation from the podium and state their names and addresses for the record. We have no one here. Do we have anyone online? No one once, twice, 3 times? Okay. Therefore, we have no response to comments from citizens and no student representatives. We're batting a 0 here tonight. And next is superintendent and administration reports.
All right. So really what I'm bringing you is the draft of the budget calendar. And this is the revisions made after the committee had made some suggestions to get some of this out in front. And I think we've got my coming to the board to give you a preview of things in December 16th before the holidays. So if you look at the draft, 11/19/2024 of the FY 25-26 budget calendar. I think most of the things that you see before that December 16th date have already been accomplished, or we're almost there. And then Monday, January 6th will be the superintendent presents her budget to the board, and there will be a budget work sessions with an overview of what are the drivers of this upcoming budget. So when we look at January, we've got 2 meetings per week as recommended, and we are going through the different components, the different object codes, with starting with elementary and special education, then secondary with support systems, the operations with CIPs and technology, and then review and adjustments, town obligations like health insurance. And we'll hope we have updated information on health insurance. Remember last year?
Yeah.
It was like a long time until we really got that information, but hopefully we'll have that sooner than later. And because they have, briefed us a little bit on our own funds versus, going to a different plan, I think we should be ready. At least Lori thinks that should be doable. And then we have, we wrap up the end of January, both the 27th and the 28th, with 2 more budget sessions. So we've never had 2 per week like this. So I'm thinking that that'll give us a real good start. We do transition COWs at this time because we're so focused on the board and budget. And I know that we were looking at as many as 4 meetings, but I just felt that was like too much on everybody.
4 meetings a week?
4 meetings a week.
That's too
So
much.
I think 2 is going to be a good amount. And I think we'll be able to accomplish a lot too. And then of course, February 5th is the joint Board of Ed, Town Council, and our RTM meeting. and then followed by a budget session. So, you know, again, we're gonna let this group, collaborative group, work through it first and see it first and get some of their suggestions before going to any public hearing. And we've
Okay.
given it a week in between there too, or a couple weeks. Oh no, just 1 week. So February 10th will be the public hearing
Mhm.
for the Board of Ed. And then followed by the special meeting with the budget and to continue our work. Wednesday, the 12th will be budget work session. So we have two, the first week of February, two, the next week, and then February 19th and 20th will be continued analyzing. And hopefully by the time we hit Monday, the 24th at a regular meeting, we can adopt it. So that gives us plenty of time for that 20 deadline to get it to John Bird.
Okay.
So I feel like this calendar looks so much better than even last year's. It felt like we were ahead of schedule here.
Any questions on the budget calendar?
And then there's more on the backside too.
Adrian?
Continue.
Yeah, I would like to, on the January 6th date, is the Board of Ed gonna actually get a copy of the budget at that point, like a substantially complete copy of the
Mhm.
budget?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my
Okay.
only question.
Ian, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, using the wrong device. To do it now because it's just kind of a brief overview, but this calendar is up as a motion, an action item later in the agenda. And I'm wondering if we could have it projected when we discuss it under the action item.
That's a really good question.
I'd be willing to project it. I have
Okay. If you
um,
got it, that'd be great, Ian. I just don't
Yeah.
have it with me on my easy to get to.
Sure,
Is
yeah.
that-
No, I'll make the preparation so that I'm ready, but I don't want to hold up the meeting now. And this is not really a discussion; it's more of a presentation.
Correct.
So, but yeah, I'll save my comments for the action item.
Okay.
All right. I do see Melanie, so if I could share my time
Yeah,
with
go.
Melanie Fleming, who is our student rep for the Board of Ed and who joined us at Cave Caps. with
Yes.
Lauren,
Yeah. that
and
was
I
wonderful.
can't wait to hear how that all went.
Yeah, the Cave Convention, it was great. I got to meet a lot of other board of student reps, and I got to share my experiences with them. It was interesting to hear how other districts picked their reps, and I learned a lot from it. It was a cool place to network and everything. I just had like a couple little things that I wanted to bring to the board today. One thing was the water fountain filter system. All the lights on it are red, so it's kind of alarming. And
You've come to the right place because you see Mr. Kilpatrick sitting in front of you. He gets to deal with facilities and he's used to doing water filters and such.
yeah, a couple of my friends have brought it to me, so I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay, good.
Another thing was a lot of people have been having a lot of Chromebook issues, like chargers haven't been working and computers are dying really fast. And I don't know if there was like an update or something, but a lot of people are having an issue where the cursor is jumping while we're trying to write on documents. So I'm not sure how that would be solved, but I just thought it would be.
So is there a place, do you bring it to a technician there at Fitch to take a look at when those things happen? What's the protocol?
Yeah,
What do you guys usually
would
do?
go to the library and try and get that fixed, but it seems like a lot of people are having this issue,
Okay.
so it might be a bigger thing than that.
Well, Dr. Kennedy is actually listening in from the other room, so
Okay.
I'll make sure he's aware and he can talk to the technician in your building to really kind of go through them
Okay.
and see what the problem is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Those were my big things today.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We might want to go around and introduce ourselves because I don't think you know who we are.
Not
So,
everybody.
Let's start with Anne Marie, if you don't mind, Anne Marie.
Anne Marie Mancini, and I'm the assistant superintendent. I'm Jennifer White, a volunteer on the Board of Ed.
I'm Andrea Ackerman. I was a principal and a teacher, and you better watch yourself.
I'm Beverly Washington.
We know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Adrian Johnson. I'm a member of the board.
And I'm Sam Kilpatrick. I'm the facilities director, and we're well aware of that. It seems that all of them turned red at about the same time. So our plumber has been going around changing the filters on those.
Awesome.
It should be done soon.
But when you see something, say something, so we know.
Don't be bashful.
Never
Speak
be
up.
bashful, right?
Speak up if you have something to say.
Because we can fix it
Okay.
faster.
Right, right, right. And thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sure, and
yeah.
I'll just take the opportunity to introduce myself as well.
Oh, good. Yes.
My name's Ian Thomas. I'm a member of the board. Good to meet you. Is
And
there,
Dr. Whitney's
are
on
you
there.
able to move to the table? And have a
I-
microphone over there?
Like,
Oh, she is.
She's at the table.
The camera doesn't pick it up.
All
Sorry.
right.
All right, good to meet you. Good to see you. Welcome.
thank you.
Adrian, you want to say anything?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna ask if there been any exciting things that have happened lately. Like I know homecoming just
Yes,
happened.
yes.
So any other exciting things that might have happened in the school?
Yeah, so Saturday was homecoming. It was a blast. We had a really great time. Raised a lot of money for the senior class, and I know the juniors had a fundraiser going there too. They have the Powder Puff football game tonight, so hopefully that goes well. And usually that's a lot of fun every year, and everybody enjoys that. And that's also a great fundraiser. So those are the kind of big fun
So I
things.
heard that there was a reverse spirit week.
Oh,
So you got to talk about what is a reverse spirit week?
I'm not.
When the adults tried to trick you and
I haven't heard about the reverse
Okay.
Spirit Week, but I know we had like a little bit of an extended Spirit Week.
okay, good.
So tomorrow's the last day, and we'll have our pep rally tomorrow to
Okay.
get ready for the big Thanksgiving game. So
So I guess the adults were all dressing alike or in different ways, like with
okay.
their Fitch gear or their whatever they come up with each day to try to see if you guys could figure it out.
Ah.
And that's the first time I'd ever heard of something like that. I thought, what a nice, fun idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to ask some friends
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, yeah.
Are you a junior or a senior? Oh, okay. So you're with us for only 1 year.
I came to a meeting last year, but it was hard with my schedule. So this year, I'm glad I can come to some more.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? No, well, thanks again for coming out.
And whenever you
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
go,
thank
because I
you.
know how busy you
Yes.
are. Thank you for coming though, Mel.
Of course.
And if there's something on the agenda that you want to speak about, please feel free to comment. Even if you see something on policy or curriculum or communications and you have student input, please feel free to tell us, talk to us about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is reports and information from the Director of Finance.
All right. So she was ill today, so
Okay.
she's got what everybody else has been passing along around here. But if you see, she's done a narrative for us, and in the narrative, she talks about, as of the 31st of October, the FY 25 year-to-date expended budget is a total of 65,637,246,
Mhm.
including actual expenditures. And I know she's done a really super job on getting as many of the encumbrances. The expenditures were 19,682,663, and then the encumbrances are at 45,954,583. So really getting those expenses that we know in contracts and that kind of thing encumbered. The available budget for the remainder of the fiscal year is 22,321
22 million.
22,321,238, or about 25%. And when compared to prior fiscal years, FY 25 year to date, we're down 3% over FY 24 and 3.78% after 2023. And a majority of the decreases are attributed to salaries and equipment. And I like this little sheet she gives us because it's like the quick version versus this, which gives you a lot of detail.
Yeah.
So the detail one is really good and I think it lays it out better than what we've seen in the past because it gives us specific categories for salaries and a lot more specificity. And that's what I heard the board asking for. But then you can see the 100s, which are salaries, the 200s, which are benefits, the 300, which are purchase services, 400 property services, 500 transportation, insurance, communication, and tuition. 600 are our supplies, 700 are our equipment, and then 800 are our dues. So those are all the categories that we have in school budgets. And you can see how it's laying out with both expenses and encumbrances. So it's a quick look. She does say areas that we need to watch are electricity. The delivery costs have increased due to the pandemic. Recoupment
Yeah.
applied to all the vendors, so we're paying for that. And we're beginning to receive some credit from direct energy. So we were expecting to see it come through Eversource, but it's actually coming through direct energy. So hopefully we'll see some of that, which we're looking for, especially now that we have solar panels on Mystic River and Groton Middle School.
Mm. Mm.
And then there's repair and replacement equipment. And I don't know if you can speak to this, Sam, but the experience increased due to deferred capital improvement program funding vehicles. So I know that we did put off the purchase of a vehicle. And there was a vehicle that was took a snow plow, took the snow plow out. So that could have played into some of this.
Yeah, that vehicle was rendered useless.
Yeah, so, but I think we're trying to figure out a plan so that we'll be able to plow in case we get snow this year. A backup plan.
We're hoping not.
It's hard to tell. And then there's, of course, rising costs, mostly in transportation related to special ed out of district transportation. With anything regarding students who are homeless, and if they're living in another town, then the other town contributes to that. So we kind of split the difference between the two towns. And then we do have a $10,000 debt for school balances in only the two schools, Charles Barnum and NEA. But I just have to tell you, we're going to be sending out a real all call because whether you're a school that's a community eligible program or whether you're one of the two schools that doesn't receive that, it's really important that our families still fill out the paperwork.
Yeah.
Because it's free meals and more. It can be for AP tests. It does suffice and give families greater leverage and really access to things. So we're really going to do a campaign with Ernie Kashmir and the team. So families realize the importance, and even some of our Navy families, they can get additional benefits during deployment if they've filled out the forms.
And we're already $10,000 in the hole.
Mhm.
Wow.
Remember, we were expecting 80,000 last year, and Ernie really came to the rescue with, several donations and, using some enterprise fund to help us out in other ways. So fundraising. So,
Yeah.
And then unemployment compensation, you can see that was budgeted for 35,000, but the actual expenditures are 68,000.
Does that mean we're already in a hole?
But I think that had to do with unemployment compensation that was taking course during the summertime.
Okay.
And then computer network budgeted at 99,000 and expenditures and encumbrances at 177. And then the general fund expenses due to the loss of grant funding also, were affected. So we've got the FY24 audit. We've got, we're working on the 26 budget worksheets, and I've got Irene really focused on that. And Ray is able to meet on Fridays, and he's going to be in district on Fridays, and then will probably give us a little more help on additional days maybe from home,
Mhm.
to help support the town review. And I was able to meet with the lead auditor of the town review, with Anne Marie and with Ray, who did it virtually. And Ray really has the handle. He used to do reviews like that.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
we're
good.
really very fortunate to have him be able to take this on so that Irene can do the day job and the night
Yeah.
job that happens with this time of year. So, and it was a very pleasant conversation, and Anne Marie took some notes, and, you know, we really felt like we have some priorities from him of how to get started with this thing.
So it doesn't seem as stressful as you initially thought.
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
I feel much better.
Good.
I mean,
good, good.
after you all, with your support and knowing that we can have Ray to help us
Okay,
with this, I think it's gonna be fine. And he's even gonna give recommendations that might help us.
Hmm.
So we did talk about that, that oftentimes he will have recommendations that support both the town and the district, because he's also asking for things from the town as well.
Good.
So that was her report in a nutshell, and then, of course, she has the backup documentation too. That gives you a lot more specificity.
With regard to the review, if we're going to be using extra time with Ray, you know, that's not currently budgeted.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know whether the board wants to contemplate requesting some reimbursement for that.
We did ask if he could work with Lori about, you know, forecasting what that might look like. And he said it's very hard to tell because there's not only the scope of the work only has 9 things, but the auditor gave a detailed comprehensive list of many, many items. And so, and a lot of them were things that were already turned in during an audit. And I said, it's too bad that we don't have this combined repository that you could just receive that, you know, information that's already been handed over. He wrote that down. He says, that's a very good idea. So, you know, a better way that we can share documents in a safe, secure way, but that they are easy to access if needed, you know? So, but it was a good conversation, and we could try to do the best we can about, you know, if Ray was here 3 days, what would that look like in a month? But we're thinking it's gonna take more than a month. And the Trumbull one that was done has happened for 3 years. So it's not only gathering the data and looking at the data and then analyzing the data, but then it's what do you do after that? What are the recommendations? And then what are the processes that you have afterwards? And as you know, the ad hoc committee did a lot of groundwork with policy as well. And so when the policy committee came together and we looked at CABE and did some comparison, we were able to put that together and meet as a policy committee and bring that forth to you for this evening. So I did tell him there's been a lot of cross training, a lot of recommendations that were coming out of the 23 are already happening and needed to happen because we've had some retirees and we needed to cross train people. So
Well, the review doesn't take 3 years. It's the So,
they're still
dealing with the
involved in it.
recommendation.
Yeah, but I think they're still involved in supporting them in some way. So,
Okay.
Did you want to?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to recognize Mike.
Thank you, and thanks for the report. I think my understanding is Ray's in 1 day a week, nominally on Fridays. Is that still the case?
yes, but I think his work is going to shift, Mike, to doing some of this town review work. And also, he says it's going to he's saying after Thanksgiving, he's coming in Wednesday to the district and Friday, and he's going to get started with some of these things and then get feedback from Joe, who's running this review. So
And-
they exchange numbers, and so they'll be in touch, and he'll work with him kind of and see what are next steps.
Okay, I guess for our next, well, actually before that, please keep us updated about how many hours being spent, because it's sort of I know it's not like a consulting, but in a similar way, I want to make sure we have budgeting bounds on this. Because, you know, the ultimate tasks still need to be done, but maybe the pace needs to be slowed. I wouldn't want to see it all of a sudden go up to 5 days a week or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think he has 5 days a week for us, but
Right.
you're right. It from 1 to 2 to 3 days could make a difference, and it's definitely more money. But I think you did have a conversation, or someone had a conversation with John about knowing that there might be some expense to this.
Right.
So, you know, and what would we need to do for next steps because we didn't have it in the budget.
Mm.
So, is Ray only coming in now because of going forward because of the audit, or are there district related transition duties that he was
There is
still?
some, there is still some district related transition duties he's been working on. But he can shift over. I think his work in Milford, he's transitioning that new person as well at the same time. So that I think will be finished up by, let's say, mid-December, and he'll have more time.
Okay.
And he let Joe know that.
Okay, so this is my last comment. I greatly appreciate his involvement and helping take that load off of Lori. But I am fearful, as many are probably, that the task could balloon. So I just advocate, like, keep us closely informed.
Yes, I will.
And,
I
and tight
will.
purse strings on this one. Thank you.
Well, I know. Well, there's only so much that this one department can do. You know, and I just don't want it to interrupt the work that we need to do now with the current audit and also with the budget that we have to have. And you saw the calendar on that, and that's pretty aggressive, and it's a good timeline. So I want to be able to keep up with it.
Okay, thank you. And maybe the board should consider putting a cap on how much is spent on this effort before additional approval. Thank you.
What I thought, we were gonna get some numbers eventually and then go to the town council and ask them for the money.
So I think that's what we have to think about when
Right.
he gets in on Wednesday and Friday next week,
Mhm.
about what that would look like.
Right.
Okay.
I've got some questions. I was going through the detailed sheet, attachment 3, and the first question was line item number 5, administration. It looks like we're gonna be 149,471 over budget on that line item. And I believe that that's all salaries, and I was under the understanding that we had saved some money in that line item because we didn't have a
Are you saying
full-time.
5?
Yeah, line item 5. Yeah.
I wish I had my specs. I see.
It's account 105 too, but line 5. do you
Yeah,
think
it's account 105, line
That
5.
helps.
Says administration.
Yep.
Administration.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to refer this to Irene and find out what that entails.
Do we have, so to me, it looks like, I mean, these were budgeted numbers. Do we have more administrators than we were budgeting for?
No. No. I mean, the contracts went up, but we should have known that last year when we put it in.
All right, so that it's just, yeah, it's an 11% increase and so that would be central office administration, correct? Under that line item?
Yes.
All right, because
I just
I thought we were
find
gonna
out
have
what
savings because of not having a business manager for something like 2 months, or at least just having Ray part-time, but presumably some savings there, but also not having an assistant superintendent for a couple of months. There should have been roughly $30,000 in savings there or something. So I kind of was under the assumption that we would be under budget on that line item. So when can we expect to have some clarification on that?
As soon as I talk to Irene.
All right, thank you. And then my other question was on insurance. It looks like this year We
What
are
line are you on?
on the last line on the first page, 55. So it's account number 201.
Mhm.
So we are 422,490 above where we were last year at this point. And you guys can tell me if I'm mistaken, but I feel like last year we were a little bit more nervous about that number. And now we're roughly 20% over
Over.
where we were last year. So I'm really concerned about where that might go and how concerned we should be as a board on where that, why it's that much higher than normal or possible reasons. And how much we need to worry about that number.
I know that she was waiting to get the chart, you know how she does the chart. It doesn't come in every month, but waiting to hear after the summer activities where we were. So I'm sure as soon as she gets that chart for health insurance, we'll be able to have a better picture.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go to Mr. Patrick.
Good evening. I have 3 items I'm going to report on tonight. The first item is the EDO 49, which is the project application to the state Office of Construction Grant Review for the Barnum roof. So that we put the package together and it went on to Irene, who is put that application together, and we are awaiting a couple of local signatures before it's actually sent to the state. So that should go to the state in the next day or so. After which we will get a review with the state, go to the state office and actually get the review on that so that we can put that out to bid.
Who else has to sign it, Sam?
I think Susan was on the list and there was one other, I can't remember who else had to sign it.
Okay.
Did you bring it to Joyce? yet for me to
Irene
sign?
forwarded it. Big part.
Oh, does Joyce have it for me to sign?
I don't know if it went to the other person. I don't remember who the second person was,
Okay.
but
Well,
I'll check with Irene in
All
the
right.
morning and make sure that's moving along.
And how soon after you get it out to the state do you think?
That'll be
you
up to the state to tell us when we can come up and sit with them.
Okay.
So we're hoping to have this all ready to go out to bid before the new year. So hoping this moves along pretty quickly. The second, the third item, Dr. Kennedy's going to put up for me in just a minute, but we're also prepping for winter, which may happen.
Yeah.
We're getting our plows, our trucks, our sanders, et cetera, ready. Sand is being delivered to the schools for our sidewalks so that we use less salt and create less spalling of the concrete and damage to the concrete sidewalks, et cetera. We're also vacuuming up leaves in many of the schools and getting ready for the Thanksgiving football game, which is a home game that we expect Fitch to beat Ledyard this year.
in the rain.
We don't care if it rains. If it rains,
You
we
want the
train.
sword back, I hear. It's all about the sword.
It is about the sword. So, and then the third item again is the grow container, which is ready to be delivered. It just got wrapped. And you can see it's a standard 8 by 40 foot cargo container. It has entry on each. You'll enter on one end, go through, and the way it was described to me, there'll be walls of. We're actually growing lettuce first. There could be a couple other vegetables that will grow later on, but the lettuce will be growing on each of the side walls. as they walk through and work on and continue to make sure that everything's running properly there. But we can take students through from one end to the other. So,
How many heads of lettuce will we be able to serve in our
well,
house?
I'm told it's between 200 and 400 a week. So, I'll be glad to see that when it actually happens. There's a lot of lettuce, as they
My
say.
favorite kind too, good lettuce.
What kind of lettuce is it?
I think it's bib lettuce,
It's bib,
hydroponic, yeah.
And so we've submitted that to the town planner. We're waiting final approval on that. It's going to be delivered out back of the building here so that Transition Academy, the kids in that program can work with Ernie and his staff and learn about that stuff. So that's on its way.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hi.
Yes.
Did we ever resolve the issue about being able to turn off the lights at Groton Middle School?
Groton Middle School, there are switches on the floors that the custodians were getting keys at the end of last week. I didn't check with them today to see if they had them, but they were getting keys so that they can actually shut the lights off by key as they're coming down.
That's for the hallway and the stairs, is that right? Because don't the classrooms turn off automatic?
Sort of automatic, yes, but if something moves, a flag moves or something, it sets them off again. But so these are supposed to turn off the stairwells and the hallways.
It looked less lighted when I went by there a couple times. It
Well,
looked like
my-
they were dimmer or something. It wasn't like,
We asked the custodians if they could start turning off some of the lights by hand before they leave too. You also have to understand that our buildings are occupied from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So those lights are on pretty late. So they're gonna be off for about 6 hours before they come back on in the morning. But again, that's we're working on that and hopefully we'll have that resolved. My assistant did go out at 2 o'clock in the morning last week to all the new schools to see where we're having problems. It seems that the academic areas, the lights were off, but the hallways were on, or maybe a kitchen light was on too. So in Mystic River, I believe Mystic River had the kitchen light on. So our technicians are working with the building management system to make sure that those are running properly. We'll go back out at 2 or 3 in the morning and check them.
Kudos to your assistant.
I hope you get to come in late. Or she.
Sam, are you here for the whole meeting or are you leaving?
Is that a loaded question?
No, because I have something, but
Is that a
I
trick
could wait
question?
to communications.
I usually stay for the whole meeting.
Okay.
I recognize Ian.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that the light situation is resolved in the schools. That's good to hear, or we're at least on the road to recovery. Question about the Thanksgiving Day game. Do we have a plan for porta potties to be on site? And if so, are they also going to be handicap accessible?
There are 2 lavatories in the concession stand, and there are, I believe, 2, whatever athletic director Romano asked for, we gave him. So I believe one of the porta potties is actually a handicap porta potty.
I think there were also some moved from a field that wasn't being used over, was my understanding.
Yep.
Whether it was the baseball field and moved over towards the other field, so.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Yeah, just saying, I'm only asking because, in years past, there was a couple of years I remember that we're a little bit short and things got kind of a little messy, but, or uncomfortable for some people, I should say. But I'm glad to hear that we have a plan in place, and, I also look forward to sharing some athletic fields task force information, later on in the meeting. Thank you.
Anything else for Sam? All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll go on to committee reports. Matthew couldn't be here tonight. So did you have anything you want to say about policy? I mean, I think
Yeah,
basically.
basically, it's all on the agenda.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
you discussed to be on the agenda tonight.
Right.
And curriculum.
I was unable to meet, so Adrian Pierce, why don't you know report?
All right. Yeah, so we met with the English department, or the leaders of the English department, the IB department. On what day did we have that? On November 18th. They proposed a course, IB Language and Literature Standard Level, by the staff and assistant principal, Amy McKenna. They did a great presentation. We still had some questions at the end of the meeting, so I believe we're going to be meeting again on that. So we didn't approve that to go forward on that course quite yet. So,
What was the title of the course?
Language and Literature. It's an IB class, and it's an SL, so a standard level, basically a 1-year IB class.
Is it gonna be a Yukon one too? A CEC, I think, ECE.
Don't believe so, but I might be wrong on that.
Well, I think they were
remember
looking
that.
to see if it could be a dual enrollment as
I
well.
wasn't sure.
Recognize
I
Ian.
saw the video. That's how I said yes.
What's that?
I watched the video. That's how I said yes.
Oh, all right.
Recognize Ian.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick follow-up. I definitely would echo Jen's concern about trying to see about dual enrollment and making sure that we have as many post-secondary credits available, universally accessible ones that can, or transferable ones that can easily go to most any school. Also curious to know if there was any discussion about honors classes being added back into our schedule. Was that, I think there's a referral out there. But I wasn't sure if curriculum actually discussed bringing it forward on the agenda anytime soon.
Well, in meeting on this class, there was some discussion on whether this class was a traditional IB level class or an honors level class. And I think that's one of the things that we are planning on getting some more information on, if it would align, more with the grading, and just the complexity of the course, if it's going to align with, the standard IB, or if it would be a little bit easier. We were told it would be a little bit less rigorous than a typical IB class, but we're just going to wait some more information on that.
Thank you for that. And yeah, that's good to hear that that's being considered. And just curious to know if there's like a broader approach to that as well, or is it just specific to this class? Or are we is curriculum looking at like a wider range of honors level classes possibly to bring forward?
Well, we did bring up if the department was looking at honors level classes in the English department, and I don't believe they are at this point. So I think that's something that.
But they did say this would suffice, but they would get more credit for it because it's IB. We already have one of these standard levels in mathematics, Ian. And so also, again, it's kind of at an honors level, but the student gets a little more credit for it because it is IB, according to the state and their GPA.
So, but it seems like it might be graded as an IB level as far as the points, on the point scale. So it would be in line with the AP and IB classes. But yeah, to answer the question more directly, we asked about honors level classes, and there were none that the department was considering, at least that we heard about in that meeting.
All right, thank you for all that information. And yeah, I know. I think it might be a worthwhile adventure to look at the next survey that we put out to, staff and students and parents and all that, to ask if there was, gauge the interest in the community about honors level courses, and see if that's the thing that maybe the department should focus on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Adrian? Finance and facilities.
I can't remember what we talked about. Can you?
I think we briefed them today already with
All right.
the most current.
Right.
Finance and facilities, yeah.
So these reports were, we just went over and were brought, there was really nothing else on the agenda. Okay. Ad hoc budget procedure committee is on hiatus. Learn.
Oh, Lauren, that's me. Okay. All right, Lauren, the board of directors had a meeting on November 12th, and Patrice McCarthy from CABE, the executive director of CABE, came to talk to us. And she said Lauren contributed to secure Tim Shriver. You missed Tim Shriver.
I heard it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the Cape Caps Convention. The legislative session set to begin on January 8th, 2025. And there will be two new leaders on the education committee because one of the leaders is not running again and the other one didn't get reelected. So we'll have two new leaders on the education committee. It is the biennial budget year, and there will be a lot of advocacy around more support for education. The 119K Commission released their report on disconnected youth along with recommendations. Did you read that report? I gotta read that report. The Special Education Task Force is on track to issue the following recommendations. They want to fully fund the excess cost grant. That's number one. Number two, create a model contract for private providers. And number three, have state auditors look at cost differentials and profits from private providers. We also talk about staff retention is being reviewed to recommend increased clerical staff or support for special education staff and state guidance on caseloads. Kate Erickson spoke about hiring challenges involving unique positions such as interventionists and physical therapists. The executive director spoke about conferences and events that she attended and conferences that staff had the honor of presenting. And Learn will be hosting the 5th Annual Disability Summit on Saturday, February 8th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Mohegan Sun Sky Convention Center. The summit is an inclusive gathering dedicated to empowering parents, caregivers, students, and the broader community, and looks to initiate meaningful dialogue, share insights, and cultivate a deeper understanding of the challenges and triumphs experienced by those living with a range of unique capabilities. Last year, they had 500
Said it was
attendees.
awesome. So that will go in my board notes and I plan to attend.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
I'm planning on sending it out too to
Okay,
everyone,
good.
in Parent Square.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put it on Groton Community Forum.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that's it for Lauren.
Right. Ian.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna ask Bev if she could repeat the time and the place of that event.
It's on Saturday, February the 8th. It's at the Mohegan Sun Sky Convention Center, and it's being held from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
I'll make sure you get a save the date, Ian. They say it's fabulous.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
You're welcome.
You're a busy lady. All right. Next we have athletic fields. And I did see they met. So Ian.
Yes, so yeah, they met last week on the what was that, the 21st? And long story short, they made some refinements to the plan based on public comment and feedback that they got at the presentations they held about a month or so, 2 months ago. And they're in the process of refining the numbers and getting some more firm data to share with people, but they're basically like 95% there, ready to start presenting to they'd like to present to the board and to the town council and to the RTM. But they're probably about a couple months away from being ready to do that. So one of the things they were asking was about our schedule, looking at the top end of the year, January, February, March. And I was on, this is more like calendar talk, but just one note to consider is that they might be ready to present sometime in January or February at a committee of the whole meeting, where we could, do a deep dive on what the plans are. So it may be worthwhile to make sure that to take a look at the calendar and see if we can reserve some of the Mondays to make sure that we still carry on with regular business. But
Well,
other than
with
that,
some of the budget work sessions, Ian, we could always have them present, if it's a special meeting, and then we could go into a work session too.
right. Yep. So yeah, so but basically I just invited them to, take their time, get their presentations together and email, reach out to the board when they're ready. And other than that, yeah, so they're looking at, since this might be a referendum, there is an election next year. So that would be an opportune time to have the community weigh in on it. But the price tag is a little steep, but there's a lot of time to make up. There's a lot of lapse in maintenance or upgrades, I should say. That we have to make up for lost time. So, I don't. I'm just relaying like a lot of the feedback from the task force themselves that was the subject of their conversation. So, not my opinion, just reporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since Matthew's not here, we have no report from Trails or Library. The next item.
Wait,
Uh,
I'm sorry, may I interrupt?
Sure.
The State Council on Opportunities for Military Children is not on here. And first of all, I'd like to request that we just put it on pro forma. And again, Susan attended in my stead. I don't know if she's prepared to present anything tonight, but maybe I could ask her if she would put it in Word notes.
Okay. There was
Yeah.
more conversation about the military compact.
Yeah.
And, and case studies that have arisen, and the gist of it was that in Groton, I think because of our real good knowledge of the military child and the compact, that, we've made adherences even before they become a problem. But there's some places where they don't know as much and it's been a struggle. So if a child moves from state to state, there's certain provisions. Like if they have to take a state history like I did, I went in every state and there were 8 of them. And I took that state history, which it didn't hurt me, but those kind of things for graduation requirements are, in the compact as
Yes.
they can be waived.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I can put a board note together.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Not for this week. This is a short and sweet one.
No. Whenever.
Yeah, and I noticed though too, like AGA.
Yeah, we only
Well,
put them on when we have a report.
Okay, because they
Yeah,
used to
we
always
used to
be
be-
on.
Yes, and
Because it's
there are
gonna be-
times
That
when,
committee only meets twice a year, so Joyce only puts it on when we have a report.
yeah, but
So same with AGSA, GEA, because otherwise you have a bunch of
I'm
things that you're
asking,
not
I'm
reporting on.
asking for.
Yeah, but it used to be on
rethink
all the
that,
time.
because at times, for instance, this time, the dates were changed.
Hmm.
So we wouldn't have known necessarily, so she could put it on. So if she could just put that on, I would appreciate it very
I
much.
can't just say no report.
All right, so next I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Any points of clarification? Hearing-
Yeah, actually, sorry,
Yep.
Jay, I was a little
Yep.
slow as well there. All right, so we were looking at all the minutes.
Yes.
Okay. On the October 28th minutes, the motion to approve policy 5145.53. The motion was phrased in the minutes as to amend the motion by using Mrs. Doolittle's suggested language of gender diverse. It's missing the clause of or term as determined by the Board of Ed after consultation with advocacy groups. The appropriate, that's what I wrote in my notes here. I'm not exactly sure what the motion was, but I know that there was a clause there, meaning basically like that was our best guess at the moment. But we wanted to reach out and consult with advocacy groups, DEI committee and the Spectrum Club and various others. So
I do
just,
remember that, Ian, and I know that Denise has reached out and I think she got some feedback from one of the groups and not the other. So I think that's why we put it off. But we will be.
no,
revisiting-
I'm not disputing like the
Yeah.
vote or that. I'm just saying the phrasing of the motion.
Right, or
minutes.
after consult with one of the two groups.
Right.
I'll have
Just in that
Joyce
clause.
listen.
I think that's important for us to communicate that, we're not trying to dictate the terms based on our own, limited understanding, but we want to reach out to advocacy groups that are represent, the community that's most impacted.
Okay,
I would just
I'll
encourage.
find out how it was phrased, but you're pretty close to what I remember.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I noticed there was a note that Dr. Whitney suggested the policy be reviewed by the DEI committee
Mhm.
and the high school.
Mhm.
But let's get that exact
Language.
and Date the minutes.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And another note, for number 2, the evaluation of coaches, my recollection, again, I didn't get a chance to review the video. But I thought that was sent back to committee. To get, the athletic director's input on some of the details.
Yes, that was a first reading and it is supposed to go back to committee, but we couldn't get the coach, we couldn't get the Mark Romano back. He was having a surgery for this last one, so we're gonna have to put it on the next policy committee and bring it back to the board at the
Okay,
final
good.
month.
That's fine, but the minutes say that it passed unanimously as a first reading. And my recollection was that it did not pass, we did not hold a vote, we sent it back to committee.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought we did the
that's
first.
my
reading.
recollection as well, actually,
I'll have
on that one.
Joyce listen.
Okay, thank you. And that's it for that set of minutes. Oh wait, no, there's one more.
I make the motion.
Oh, no, never mind. That's never mind. Yep, no, that's all I have for that set of minutes. So I'd like to see those clarifications put in. And let's see. November 4th. Um, 7th. It's, the November 7th meeting, that was the one where we had the insurance presentation.
Yes.
And I was hoping to see something mentioned in here that, it seemed like there was, and maybe I misunderstood, but I thought there was some consensus amongst the board that we wanted to engage in some conversation with all the impacted parties, representatives of the teachers, paras, tutors, custodial, secretarial, admin and staff, and retirees to get a sense of, where they were on the idea of the insurance. And we're consider a changeover, what it would look like to them and what their interest level was in pursuing such possibility. Would that be a fair thing to put in the minutes? Or,
Yeah. I think we had consensus on that. Yeah, so I think that.
I'll have Joyce go back and listen. That's the best way to get that done, so she
Correct.
can hear for herself. Yeah.
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 Appreciate it.
I think you're right. There wasn't an actual motion, but I believe that everyone agreed that we wanted to engage all the parties.
all right.
There is a big benefit to having these recorded, I have to tell you.
Yeah.
Yes. And the minutes don't have to reflect everything anyway.
No, but
No, but that was a significant
Huh?
takeaway towards the end of the meeting.
Yeah, there was, but I'm
Yeah,
just
that-
saying in general.
Yeah.
That was the action item for us, I think, at the end of the meeting.
Yeah. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
And one last one, for the November 20th meeting. The notes indicate that, for, agenda item 3, Chair Whiteloff recessed the meeting at 6:57 PM for the board to deliberate on the grievance. And then it
Mhm.
says, the line below that, Ian Thomas left the meeting at this time. That's not an accurate time. I did actually participate in that discussion for almost 30 minutes before I had to step away. So, I had in my notes about 7:28 as my time of departure from the meeting. And
Yes. Yep. I
Yeah.
see that. I can send a note to Joyce about that.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And that's all I have for the minutes.
All right. Thank you
So
very
tell
much.
me where this is, so I can bring it to her attention here.
Yeah, so we're looking at November 20th.
Yep, I got
the
that.
Special meeting.
Yep.
So
This is
item 3,
Oh,
where it says he left. His notes are showing 7:28.
okay, got it.
All right, excellent. And
Passing notes over here.
appreciate it. And yeah, like if I could just
I
get
get
like,
it right.
let me know when the adjustments are made to the minutes, and that'd be great. Thank
All
you.
right. Any other corrections, clarifications? Hearing none, so the motion is to accept the consent agenda with the noted clarifications and corrections to be published. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that passes.
Hey, do I understand that you opposed?
I'm
Had
sorry,
your hand up at the time you said opposed. So I'm simply asking whether you were opposed.
was anyone opposed?
No.
Andrea, were you,
What?
were you yes or,
No, I said yes.
okay. So is all yays from here?
Okay, I just saw your hand go up, Jay, that's all.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right, so that passes. Next, for new business, Jen, would you like to read item 1?
The motion to approve fiscal year 2025-2026 budget calendar.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, and any discussion? And I believe this, Ian, is where you project.
Yes, yeah, stand by. I'll get that up.
And Kate, does he have
Does he have the ability to share?
to share?
I'm sorry, yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
I'm sorry, who was it?
Ian,
Ian,
Yes, he does.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, just stand by 1 second. I had it ready and it slipped away.
Okay.
Can everyone see now?
yep,
Yes.
looks good.
All right. All right. So sorry for the delay there. So Jay, where the motion's been made and seconded. We're good to discuss.
Yes, so now we're in discussion. Yep.
All right. So I did have a note here about looking at January 6th, wondering I was gonna make a motion, I'll make a motion to add a public hearing, maybe after the presentation for the January 6th meeting.
So the only problem I remember from last year was it was really important that we did the review with the town and the, the representatives from town council and the RTM first before we then brought it to the public. So I think in this calendar, we've outlined that. Of course, people can all watch the presentation and it'll be recorded. So people will get a sense of what is talked about. But I think we purposely put the review of the council, hold on.
All right, well, I did make a motion, so if there's no second, then there's no point in,
I'll second it.
thank you.
So is there any discussion? But if I understand correctly, Ian, what you're suggesting is the board have its own public hearing about the superintendent's budget.
Right, yeah, so a little explanation of my reasoning.
Yep.
Would be like, yeah, the December 16th meeting, we preview the budget, and then on January 6th, there's a presentation. And that might be a good opportunity. I thought having a public hearing afterwards, so that people would have had some time with it at that point. They would have seen the preview and they would have had the presentation. And then it was a chance for us to get some feedback from the community before we go into our work sessions. And also anyone that just has any, just declarative statements that they want to share or try to give some guidance to the board, so way we can get community input before we start our process. And the public can address us directly.
Any discussion?
I mean, I can see the importance of getting that feedback, while the board is still discussing the budget, prior to, so I would support that. I don't know when we would put it in, but I would support having that public comment.
I'm not going to support it.
Or are we taking a vote? Sort of.
Yeah, take a vote.
Can you tell them a little bit about why that was important, why we wanted to make sure that the RTM and council was able to see it and give their feedback first before we brought it? Because I know that while I've just out of the gate shared with you what it was, I think going through the process with the board and analyzing the budget more carefully before we bring it, there's sometimes changes made along the way that might cause it to be a little more palatable,
And go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say.
Okay. And I think if we go through the budget and then the community hears everything about the budget, then they comment on it. They're gonna comment on it before that we even discuss it. I don't.
Well, last year I remember we had the RTM and the liaison group, and then we did on the same night. Then we did the hearing,
Mhm.
but I knew that it was really recommended to me that we see what the council and the RTM had to say about the superintendent's budget
Mhm.
before we bring it to but we kind of did it on the same night. So I don't know if that really helped or not, but
Was that was the recommendation from the RTM and the
I
council?
don't know who it came from. All I know is that I was following orders.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Well, I guess
Can
who's
I ask-
orders?
Well,
Well,
where
someone knew it.
So
that suggestion came from?
What's that?
Where did those suggestions come from that Susan's referring to?
I think it was the board had discussed it and had said that that was, the board at the time had said that was the way to do it. I think there might have been a year where we did it in reverse, and I don't know that that worked out as well because the town.
Well,
feel like
this,
they could-
this sort of, this extends from some of the discussions we had in the ad hoc committee. You know, to my recollection, like we had a thought of having a sort of a bookend approach, you know, and the public hearing on January 6th would happen after the superintendent presents the budget. But the budget's been public knowledge in one form or fashion for, you know, about 3 weeks at that point. And it also, you know, the idea of trying to get community input, in general, just to give us some guidance before we go into our deliberations. This is very much similar to, you know, how the town council goes about their budgeting. You know, and also the RTM where there's, you know, sort of an opening public hearing phase before they dive into the document. And, you know, January 6th, like that meeting, to me, that's the pivot point between the superintendent's budget shifting toward to becoming the Board of Education approved budget. And, you know, as elected representatives of the community, I think it's important for us to hear from the community directly about it. And, you know, any, you know, town councilors or RTM were welcome to participate as a member of the public. But, you know, we were trying to really construct that first month to be, you know, the significant transition from, you know, superintendent's proposed to Board of Ed approved. And I think a key linchpin to that is getting the community input directly. Understanding the document is not, you know, it's not been refined yet. It's basically straight off the superintendent's desk. But that's, I think, a great opportunity for, you know, to start the transition from superintendent's proposed to Board of Ed approved. And to get the community input, feedback from the superintendent's budget. And then, you know, we move forward as a board to try to, you know, process it from there. Thank you.
That date is also early in January, just after Christmas vacation. So I don't know that you're gonna have a lot of turnout too. I'm trying to think of a time when more families would be able to come.
Right. But, you know, so I also, like, one of the things I want to, like, anyway, the only reason I was in favor of it was the idea, like, we don't want to necessarily go too far, you know, on assumptions if we start cutting certain things that are very dear to some people that are already willing to come out. You know, it's harder to reverse course. I'd rather like take a gauge first and kind of see who's really passionate about what, and or if there's any like kind of screaming red flags that we're not aware of that somebody else is picking up on in the community. You know, if it's after the holidays, you know, so be it. I mean, everyone's kind of getting back in that zone, so are we. You know, but you know, it's a new year, new start. And I think it is a good thing to support. And
So-
also we are a new board, like, and, you know, the previous boards, like, you know, whatever they did in the past, that's the past. And we are here now and, you know, I feel like there's a surge for like, you know, kind of changing the approach and trying to be more, you know, inclusive and have more opportunities for engagement in the public. More
Yep.
organic.
I believe that we have had discussions about how we engage the public. And, you know, we've talked about, you know, how do we get public input? And this is like the perfect way to do it. I don't know that a lot of people will come out, but I think it is important for us to give the taxpayer and the parents a voice at the beginning of the process. The one public hearing, you know, that's joint is after we've done a whole month of work sessions, which frankly, we could be going in the wrong direction. So I would support soliciting public input at that point. It seems like the right time to do it. We wouldn't want to do it in the middle of the work sessions. So I would support it. And Recognize Adrian.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe if we did it earlier, but before we got into the work sessions, where we might be making decisions about the budget. So how about adding some time at maybe the beginning of the meeting on January 27th, or maybe even the January 22nd, if we set a certain amount of time aside for public input. Because it seems like we're going to be getting a lot of presentations, which maybe the public would appreciate as well. And that will get us a little bit later in January, but really before we start making any
Cuts.
big decisions as a
Yeah.
board.
They'll have more depth.
Yeah.
I think they'll
Yeah,
have more
that's what I was
detail
thinking.
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to go off. Then my presentation is kind of very
Broad.
broad. You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't get into the nuts and bolts like
Okay.
these do.
Yeah, I could support that.
Does that sound reasonable to you, Ian? Does that sound like it would be early enough to kind of meet what your intent was?
Well, maybe I had a different understanding of what a budget work session is, because I see that starting on January 13th. And
Actually, on the 6th.
It still starts on the sixth.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
I guess I'm thinking of after the presentations.
yeah. Because I think the
Well,
concern I
and-
have.
Well, if I could just
Adrian-
interject here real quick, to answer Adrian's concerns, no, I feel like that's a little bit too late.
All right.
To catch on the front end, the superintendent's budget presentation is very broad, but so can be a lot of people's comments. Sometimes people are very focused on a certain program, other people have more broad concerns. I still think, like, to me, the natural place to dovetail it in would be to have it after the superintendent presents the budget on January 6th. And then, maybe after we close that public hearing, we can open up our budget work session and start talking about the overview, the drivers, and start, that's when we begin. And to me, in my mind, these budget work sessions, like we talked about, trying to open up a committee of the whole meeting and begin to actually, like, review numbers and possibly move numbers. That we're allowing the community to have input, before we start making cuts or moving, big numbers around. We've given them the opportunity to speak organically to the process. It just feels like that's the inception moment. And then, if we're gonna follow that model of opening up one meeting for the committee of the whole, and then like having a series of votes as we transition the budget from
I'll get you.
proposed to the Board of Ed approved, like, that's gonna be January 13th, 14th, 21st, 22nd. That's all gonna be happening in those sessions, in my mind. That's what my understanding of the direction we wanted to go.
Yeah, my concern is you do at the end of January, you're going right into a February 5th joint meeting with the council, and then another public hearing on the 10th. You're gonna have people it's gonna be almost back-to-back public hearings. This spreads it out a little bit. Did you have anything else, Adrian?
Well, I mean, I
I
can,
recognize Jen.
yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of that. I mean, I guess I didn't see like the elementary special education, second education, where it says budget work session. I didn't know well, I didn't know if that was going to be like it was last year, or if we were going to actually be making decisions on things in those sessions. So I'm up to hear what other people have to say.
Okay, I'll recognize Jen.
I probably don't want to add like another meeting. Like, I can support Ian with like a public hearing, but my initial when he had said that, my initial was to say no, because it was the superintendent's budget, and then we as a board need to scrutinize, make recommendations against that budget. And then once we're done and that the public can see what we are thinking, because it's going to be eventually our budget, then solicit their information rather than having it right after, Susan's, because they're providing input on something that we may not necessarily agree on with what she had presented. You know what I mean? So, are we just adding a second meeting? But if this board is intent on adding like a community, session, I would be willing to give up the Monday, January 13th, and then we just start. This is very detailed, saying like, hey, we're going to look at elementary, special ed, secondary. I thought like our initial intent was we would open up the meeting and then we would go through this whatever sections we can get through in the night, and then we close it and then just continue on. So if we remove the elementary and special education and just say, make that a public hearing, then that's okay. But I was hoping that you guys can hear from like another side where they're going to give comments on Susan's budget, and we haven't even approved it yet or started scrutinizing it. Because Susan could be like, hey, I want to hire
Well,
like some outrageous number, let's say like 500
you
new
guys said
people.
bring
you
you
know.
their list. They might just be bringing you their list. I'm just saying.
No, that's okay. I'd rather have that.
Wish list.
But I'd rather have the principals and administration bring whatever. You review it, and then we can review it. And then once we've reviewed it, then share what we feel. But that's my comment. Thank you.
So you would do it on January the 13th?
Yep, push everything and then don't
Push
make
everything down?
don't push everything down, because
I just have it the same day?
just have it, just label each of those days, budget work session, budget work session, budget work session. And then we decide as we move along. So maybe there's some that are easy and we could go through 3 in one night, or,
You do
so-
need the staff there to be able to tell you some of the things that they were requesting.
Mhm,
It really kind of goes in order of the budget book.
mhm.
But you're right, we might not get to everything, but if we've got staff coming out, they kind of need to know which night to come out.
Mhm.
All right, well, since January 6th is a budget work session, I see Ian's logic that if you're going to open it up and actually get collaboration with the public, then it should be before the first work session. If you put it toward the end of the month, you basically already potentially made.
So it
Your
looks like
decisions.
the work session is going to be around overviews and drivers, kind of like we were calling them challenges last year.
Yeah.
Challenges that we saw in the current budget, which were drivers for the future budget. So I
Right.
think
So I think that
that's
makes,
about as much as we were thinking would happen.
and I think after we do that, that's a good place to insert.
I mean, the public
The public
hearing
hearing.
can come and
Public-
listen.
If they hear all of that, yeah. Anyway,
Right, I wouldn't give the presentation twice. I mean, I'd give it
No.
once,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
it.
and then the
Well,
hearing
then-
part would be hearing from the public.
I'm sorry for not raising my hand electronically, but when I'm sharing the screen, that icon is not immediately available to me, so I'm just having to kind of speak up. But yeah, I mean, I think the value is having the input ahead of time. Some will speak broadly, some will speak very specifically, some will not have the benefit. I mean, of course, they're not gonna have the benefit of the department heads. But again, if we look to the town council model and the RTM model of how they conduct their business with the budget on their end, again, they take all their comments on the front end. And then, it's up to the body to take notes and then deliberate on the value of those comments or the weight that they want to attach to those insights as they review and deliberate on the presentations that come before us. So, I can appreciate what Jen was saying, but honestly, I mean, I see in a public hearing is, could take upwards like 45 minutes to an hour worth of time for people to speak. And I see the January 6th meeting, and I thank you, Jay, for the support and recognizing the logic there, or at least my approach to the logic, I should say. That after the presentation, just do the public hearing right there, and then we convene the first budget work session. And so we have the input from the public, which, that's one of the things that I took away from the last budget session that, was that the public felt a little frustrated and sort of that so much was already in play and already adjustments were being made without their input, lots of cuts being made without, their chance to kind of like weigh in. And again, like, and I don't think the public expects everything that they ask for to happen. They just want to have their input registered ahead of time so that we have it in our minds as we start weighing the pros and cons of various adjustments. Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion about the amendment? If not, I'm going to call for a vote. The amendment is to add a public hearing to the January 6th budget work session. And I think I'll just do this by the yeas and nays so that we make this easier for Joan. Jen?
Oh goodness, I would say no to the 6th, but yes to the 13th. I just don't think that's enough time.
Okay, so the motion on
Oh,
the floor.
so
is-
no.
Okay, so you're, no. Andrea?
No,
Bev?
No.
I'm yay. Adrian
Yes.
and Ian.
And Mike.
Mike's not there.
Is Mike still online?
Yes, I'm in favor. I'm in favor.
Unfortunately, it looks like we lost Mike. So, that's a tie. So,
Move on the calendar.
now we move on the main motion.
Well, I'll make an amendment to, I'd like to make a motion to add it to the 13th then.
Okay, so the new, do I have a second?
Second.
So the motion on the floor now is to amend the calendar to include a budget work session on the 13th. Jen?
A public
Public hearing.
Hearing, I'm
Public
sorry.
Does that come with another presentation or will they have expected to
listen in.
listen?
No
Yeah,
presentation.
that's the beauty of this,
At that
was
point.
that it would have come after the presentation. And so now.
Yeah, I
there's
don't
gonna
want
be
to
this
bore you with
lag.
2 of these.
Yeah, don't.
We can't be doing another presentation.
But then they'll have more they won't really know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
But hopefully they watch the video. And I
Yeah.
look at the budget book. That's what we're hoping, that they
Right.
have a budget book and they're gonna look at the budget book,
Yeah,
not just the presentation.
Yeah.
That's just an overview.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So I would say yes to that because, I can't say yes.
Okay, Andrea,
no,
Bev,
Um, I'll abstain.
I think we're at the same
All right.
spot.
Wait, are we still in the middle of the vote? I lost track.
yes.
Mhm.
It just, now the math gets fun. All right, so I'm yes, Adrian
Yes.
It passes.
and Ian.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that passes. Now we will vote
All right.
on the calendar
On the calendar as
And
amended.
as amended.
I would
As
like to offer another amendment, and somebody can tell me if this is not needed. But
We just won't second it.
so I'd like to make amendment that that under January 6th, that the board is provided a complete superintendent's budget with noted exceptions. In noted exceptions, this doesn't have to be in the amendment, meaning like we're not going to have the healthcare, so we're going to make a guess, or what other things that are just rough guesses. So that way it's kind of written down that we will actually get a complete budget.
Second,
Which you're
Thomas.
saying you won't be getting. You might not have insurance.
You won't have the
No,
actual
exactly. But I
insurance
would
numbers.
say I kind of went a little bit into my explanation now that Ian seconded it.
Yeah.
I would say that that we were provided the complete budget, except insurance section will be in yellow saying this is our best guess, because we don't have this information or whatever else. Like I forget what the other ones were. I know insurance was the big one that didn't come out till later. But that way it's clear that the board is expecting a more or less completed document
Okay.
you know,
I'll second
waiting
that.
for amendments.
Any discussion on that?
Yes, I fully support that idea. And one of the things that was troublesome last year was that while we were presented with those blank spaces where we did not know the number, we were given zeros in that position, so we had nothing even to estimate on. So I fully support this motion. And you know, to have like a firm commitment of what the superintendent's proposed budget is. And where in those places where the numbers are not firm, to have them highlighted, noted, but also including the best estimate, possibly even rounded up. You know, so that, you know, like try to like, you know, worst case scenario, what would it look like? So that when the numbers come in, it's not a hard adjustment. It's, you know, a minor adjustment. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we're going to vote on Adrian's amendment that January 6th include a as
Completed
close
budget.
to complete budget as it's technically feasible. And I'll go around again. Jen,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Bev,
Yeah,
I'm a yes. Adrian,
Yes.
Ian.
Yes.
All right, so that passes unanimously. Are we ready to vote on the calendar as amended? All right, so I'm going to go around. To accept the budget calendar as amended. Jen,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
yes.
I'm a yes. Adrian
Yes.
and Ian.
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous. All right, thank you very much. Next, Bev, would you want to read the motion for item 2?
To approve policy 3110, budget planning as first reading.
We have a second
Second, Thomas.
by Jen. All right. Just open that up. And do we have any discussion on this item?
Has everybody read the new policy?
So it has the red light, green light, black line. Black line was the original. The
Right.
green is CAPE language, and red was just, you'll be happy to note, Dr. Ackerman, that we don't call it Board of Education when we've already called it the board, and we're consistent with it.
Right. And
Lessons
but I
learned.
did notice that it said, well, I think it said the school district, and it should just say district. And I'm not sure if it's this one or a different one.
Okay.
All right, let's find that.
Oh, yeah, it says school district on the first line.
Yeah.
It says the school district.
Okay.
It could be D.
Got it.
Ian,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in favor of this draft as written. Minus any of Andrea's suggestions as far as like consistency.
And we had it vetted by Floyd, and he really did a comprehensive look at what originally came out of the ad hoc committee, and then, you know, using the CAPE language as recommended, and gave us good feedback, I would say. And there's certainly some language we want to use in regulations once we get to regulations, and I'll bring it back to the policy committee to look at.
Okay.
all right, any other discussion?
Yeah, actually, if I could just jump in on that to follow up. Yeah, just a full little background for everyone. The regulation aspects of these policy changes are not included in this batch. If I understood Matthew's emails correctly, he was saying basically like and the superintendent kind of hinted at it here. She probably speak to it more clearly, but basically like we're putting the regulation side of these policies on the shelf until the spring, until we get clear of the budget. But we did have drafts. The ad hoc committee did have drafts of regulations that are in the hands of Irene and Susan. And so I do look forward to the conversations in the spring. Once we're clear of the budget and we can focus on those. They would have had plenty of time to kind of, take the intent and make it their own and make it functional within the operational parameters that they understand.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ian, for understanding that.
All right, so is there any other discussion? All right, so on the matter of the motion to approve policy P3110 budget planning as a first reading, I'm just gonna call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So that passes. Let's see, I'll entertain a motion to approve policy P3113, setting budget priorities as a first reading.
So
Do I
moved.
have-
Second.
Seconded by Bev. All right. Any discussion?
They were the same exact thing. The green is Cave's language.
Right.
The red is out.
Yep.
This policy mostly comes from Cave.
It does, but there is the portion of, getting this process off to a good start, and it says actually in September. And I think that's in alignment. Ian, is that true, in alignment with what your committee work was about too?
Yes, yeah, I was
Get
gonna
it
say,
off to a good start. Yeah,
we look at these things, at one point I sent some drafts around that had a blue highlight in the text that identified Cave language, green identified ad hoc committee language, and the red was the usual strikeout.
right.
Notwithstanding. But in these versions, the green, it's amalgamated. It's a mix of Cave and ad hoc language in there. But yeah, September is commensurate with what we were intending.
Right.
I just, at the risk of beating a dead horse, I mean, this really talks to what we just talked about with a public hearing, because we're saying that we want to study school programs in relation to present and future needs of students, staff, and the community.
Mhm.
So this really speaks to why we need, to hear from the community in this process.
In the last paragraph too, all Board of Education budget meetings are public meetings.
Right.
And the public is encouraged to attend and contribute.
All right, so is there any?
That
further-
language that's the next one. This is 3113. Right?
Yeah.
This might even be language we'd want in our budget book.
Yeah.
You're welcome, right?
Yeah.
I just
Welcoming
wanted
community input.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jay for bringing that point up. I did actually miss the opportunity to mention that when I was advocating for the change to January 6th. That was part of my thinking too, was like, again, front end, but January 13th is acceptable. We'll move on.
Is there anything, anyone else who'd like to discuss this? Okay, hearing none, for the motion to approve policy P3113, setting budget priorities as a first reading. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Abstentions? So that passes unanimously. And I pulled my hand down quickly, Joan. All right, next, Adrian, would you like to read the motion for item 4?
Right, I would like to make a motion to approve policy P 3120 budget document as a first reading.
Second.
First by Adrian. Second by Bev. Any discussion on this? And I'd just like to make a quick statement. So I know that at home, this may look like we're going through this very quickly. I just want to recognize the work of Ian and Jen and Dr. Whitney over the entire summer in working on these policies, bringing them forward, then going to the policy committee where Ian and Bev and
Matthew.
Matthew went through them, and then to the superintendent's team who correlated it with CABE. So believe me when I say that while we seem to be moving quickly, that a lot of work went behind this, a lot of study, a lot of back and forth. And so it's the fruit of all of those folks being involved. So I just want to recognize that and thank everyone.
Thank you, Jay.
Any discussion?
Just that.
Yeah.
There's one of those,
And we had your grammar.
yes, so I'm gonna send it to Erica if that's
Okay.
all right with everybody.
Okay, yeah. Policy committee will consider your grammatical suggestions.
Oh, you're not gonna say this?
Oh, well, I could say it, but it just should say board instead of Board of Education
The
meeting,
last
Okay.
paragraph.
The last
Board.
paragraph.
Oh, okay,
just to be consistent.
Mhm,
okay.
And again, most of this comes from CABE,
mhm.
Yeah,
something we need.
Yeah, my question is talking about that last sentence of the first paragraph.
Mm.
And I'll skip to the end. It says superintendent and implemented by the superintendent's office following the review by the board. Should that be approval by the board rather than review? And I guess this would go to Ian maybe if there was some discussion on how that, on the meaning of that sentence.
Well, if you look at what the document I just projected, you can see that the draft that came out of the committee actually did have a little bit more specificity when it came to review and approval by the board.
Oh, I can't. I should have brought glasses, but
Sorry, I'm trying
You
to
magnify
figure-
that at all, Ian?
Is that
Thank you.
coming through bigger?
oh yeah, that's
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
that's
yes.
better.
All right. And that also kind of leads into another conversation. As far as the third paragraph that did not make it into the cut that came into the agenda package. But this with the projected document with the blue ink, blue ink is the CABE language, green ink is the committee language. And you see the third, so yeah, definitely I would encourage and support a motion to add the words and approval by the board into that first paragraph, last sentence. And then also having the third paragraph reinserted where it talks about reporting of communications that are expected to be used as guidance.
So I'm reading this though, as this is the onset of the budget document for the superintendent's budget. And it's to be then reviewed by the board.
And then the next paragraph says, the board shall review the superintendent's proposed budget at one or more budget meetings and make changes as the majority of the board may desire.
Right. So it starts out with, this is out of the gate, the superintendent's recommended budget, and then it goes to the board.
However, if you look at the projected document, the order is a little different. The second paragraph is where we talk about reviewing the superintendent's proposed budget and then making changes as the majority of the board may desire. And then the third paragraph talks about how the board may get to those changes. So there's sort of a.
I thought that was more of the regulations of that
Right.
process.
Now, that is a little bit of a challenge. One, I think there's a matter of principle here and good practice. Two, there's a matter of jurisdiction. I mean, regulations, the board officers are included here with the administration. Now I could see the administration maybe being a carve out and that going into regulations, but do regulations have jurisdiction over board officers? or do regulations go from the superintendent on down?
Well, in regulations, that's just the way you want to implement the actual board policy. So that's how, it's doable within the organization. So that's really under my work, but I certainly bring in administration and I certainly would listen to what the ad hoc committee had recommended. But it really is the process by which we deliver what the policy has recommended or is law.
So what were and Jen, please, and if Dr. Whitney's back around, definitely please jump back in too. But my understanding, my recollection of the committee's discussions and also some discussions I had with other board members that were not on the committee, that we wanted to be sure that we did not end up in a situation similar to last year where we're giving some guidance that, where we're given information and that was expected to be used as guidance in how we shape the budget, transitioning from the superintendent's proposed to Board of Ed approved. And it wasn't until much later in time that that information proved to be not exactly accurate, or there was some contest to the accuracy of that, as far as like, who said what and when. So what the intent of this paragraph was to ensure that any regulation or any sort of practice would be sure to require documentation of anything that is supposed to be used as guidance. Now, policy is the driver of regulation. So in my mind, like, I wanted to put this at the top of the pyramid to make sure that it made it all the way down, all the way through. So like, that would carry, a message forth that like, if we're going to be given guidance by anyone, that we want to see supporting documents and make sure that we're like on firm understanding of exactly what that guidance means, and that the source of that guidance, all sources are in accordance with each other. So
I support that third paragraph. I mean, I think that we would probably be in a much different situation this year had that paragraph been there last year. So
Do you remember what the feedback from Floyd was on that third paragraph?
I have the document here, and I could project it as well. But in 3120, it says, same issue as above, seems too granular and not very practical. However, I would, Floyd and I never discussed the actual detail of where that paragraph came from. This is just him doing a rough run through, which I understand this is a unique paragraph. It's not found in most other policy documents, but
Saying it could be part of a regulation though, but it is kind of,
it's fair. And I would be glad to support any regulation that reflects this, but I
Yeah.
think it's something,
Yeah.
a little higher level to make
But
sure
I
that
do
any
see-
regulation follows this philosophy.
I do see Ian's point, though, that when you direct board officers, that's the board's purview and not regulation. Because anything that we require the board officers to do would be our purview. So you can make the argument that the rest could be regulation. What if we agree to send this one back to policy for further clarification from Floyd? I personally support the intent here. But maybe we can get more information from him since this is a first reading.
yeah, can we see if maybe Floyd can rework the paragraph so that it like answers everyone's questions?
As long as he understands the intent, I think.
Yeah, do we have general support in the intent of the?
Well, what is the intent now?
Well, just
The
send any
intent, so if I can speak to it directly, and I'll just be a little more plain about it, is that, you know, last year we were given information about nurses and you know, things being covered, and that turned out not to be the case. And so we, at one point, we were left ourselves short. When in fact, like some of the people on the board were in favor of moving forward with a higher percentage increase to include some preparation for possible unforeseen things like the nurses. So, and then that number got adjusted, and you know, we never really got the information cleanly that there was a strong possibility the town was not gonna carry the nurses through for us. And that they
Yeah,
were
none
gonna,
of us did.
Well, there was an email that said that it was staying in the town budget. I think the confusion was in how that adjustment took place at the end of the budget process. If there was any confusion, but there's clearly, the last email said it would stay in the town budget, but you know, again, we don't want to relitigate all of that, but I
no, I don't.
support the idea that, you know, we could ask Floyd for guidance on this. I think transparency, anything that promotes transparency, it doesn't become, you know, impossible to enact it, you know, I would support. So,
Right, well, basically, I mean, like, you know, throughout the last budget session, we got a lot of information that was like, you know, hearsay, essentially. It was verbatim, it was relayed verbally, verbal conversations, which, you know, that we get into the telephone game and things can get distorted. And so, you know, with the amount of money that we're dealing with here and the amount of impact that any portion of that money could have, positive or negative, across the district, you know, it's incredibly vital, as, you know, for myself, I want to know for sure I'm operating on good information. And we can only make sound judgment calls when we are confident in the information that we have. So
So
I just.
Ian, you want to
get
keep
away
that
from-
third paragraph in there? Is that what you want to do? The
Yes, I would,
board
I would,
officers?
I guess I'll make a motion to insert the third paragraph as projected into the policy 3120 as written in the agenda packet.
I second it.
Thank you.
any discussion? Or do we want to send this back to policy for Floyd to review?
I would,
It's
I would
gonna have
suggest,
Policy
you know,
anyway.
just to discuss it a little bit, I would say my logic would be, I would encourage people to vote yes for this. And then we can scale it back to fit with Floyd's guidance. But just to make sure that we plant a flag in the sand here saying this is the principles we want to adhere to. And then we can fine tune it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any harm in that paragraph.
No.
So,
Yeah, I think it sends our intent and then he can work on the actual
Yes.
language that matches our intent.
So how? I won't ask. I was gonna say, how did it get from that to this? Like something must have happened, right?
Well, Floyd gave his opinion.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna just tell Floyd reevaluate
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
based on our original document? Okay.
Right, and I would just say that, you know, Floyd and I never spoke about this. Floyd never spoke to the committee, the ad hoc committee about this. He didn't really know the details of like where this came from. So, I mean, you know, I think if we give him full context, that might alter the outcome. You know, and he didn't say it was, he just seems too granular and not very practical. However, like if we put in the context of like not being able to put, you know, money into the budget because of possible contingencies, you know, maybe that would change.
All right, is there any other discussion? So The motion on the floor is to amend the first motion to include the third paragraph. I'm going to just read that into the record. Board officers and administration are required to report any communications they have with town officials regarding any budget-related matters. If any of these communications are intended to be used as guidance upon which the board is expected to act, these communications must be documented in writing and confirmed as accurate by all parties involved in the communication. So if there's no further discussion, I'm going to call for a vote on the amendment to include that paragraph. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So the amendment passes. Is there any discussion on the motion as amended?
Yeah, I'd like to make one more amendment. I would like to add in the last sentence of the first paragraph where it says superintendent's office following review and add and approval by the Board of Education or by the board.
Do I have a second?
Second, Thomas.
Okay. Any discussion? Nope, hearing none. The motion on the floor is the amendment to add and approval.
Mhm.
In the
Where-
first paragraph,
On the first paragraph.
yes.
Yeah,
So,
and then change it to just the board, I guess, after that.
yeah, so could you read it as amended?
All right, yeah. So I'll read the sentence.
Yep.
Procedure for such involvement shall be developed by the superintendent and implemented by the superintendent's office following review and approval by the board.
Any discussion?
But then it goes down to say the board shall review the superintendent's proposed budget
Yeah.
at one or more of the budget meetings. So this is out of the gate. You're
Yeah,
not going to
that's
be
what I
reviewing
thought.
it and approving it in
Right,
the beginning. You're going to go through that whole process to do
right,
that
to
work.
do that.
Yeah, but it also, it's somewhat, then you're saying, the same thing already exists then because it says implemented by the superintendent's office following review by the board. So it's already a little bit ambiguous by saying the same thing twice,
It is a little ambiguous.
but maybe that can just get worked out in policy.
The first paragraph seems to refer to the preparation of the superintendent's
Right,
budget.
right.
And then the second paragraph is where it becomes the board. So yeah, it's just,
But it does say following review by the board at the end of that first paragraph. So
Yeah.
it doesn't,
yeah, it's kind of redundant.
Or does it mean that it will, this process will be followed with the review of the board? And then it goes down to say,
Yeah, maybe
board
you should
shall
say that,
review.
followed by review of the board.
yeah,
Right, so actually, like,
Yeah.
visiting this paragraph, I think the point of this paragraph is to, let's see, it's saying, shall direct the preparation of superintendent's budget to make the budget, so the sentence before that informs the last sentence. To make the budget a comprehensive reflection of the financial needs of the school system, representatives of the community, students, certified and non-certified staff, and administrative staff shall be involved in the budget process. So how are they going to be involved? The procedure for such involvement shall be developed by the superintendent and implemented by the superintendent's office following review by the Board of Education. So
maybe it
this
should
is
just end after office.
say again.
Maybe it should just end after office, then implemented by the superintendent's. Well, it does say implemented.
Yeah. So
Right, so she's
Well,
already implemented
but
it.
the point of this paragraph, I guess I wanted to kind of like maybe just I just realized we may be talking about two different things. The point of this paragraph is just about how the input is going to be gathered from all those identified parties.
Well, I'm okay with the way it's written. Because it's the same, what the superintendent's gonna do, and then the board's gonna review it. But you wanted to say that we approve what she's gonna do. Is that what you want?
Well, I
Adrian?
think that's kind of outlined in the
Well,
budget
yeah, I mean, I
calendar.
guess it depends how you read it. So,
Yeah, it
so
is
it's,
confusing
I
though.
mean, that is what we just did with the calendar.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking,
so
Ian.
maybe we can just, let the committee work out the details on that. I mean, this essentially, I think everybody's good with the general idea of the policy, right? And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going back to committee anyway.
all right, so maybe I'll
Yeah.
withdraw my motion then, I guess, and we'll let it work out. Does that sound reasonable?
So
And I
we're
will,
gonna
one second.
go back to committee, but you could possibly take that sentence and then make it like, the second sentence is the second paragraph or something like that, because then you're saying the board shall review the superintendent's budget again, and then we just say then after review approve. So maybe just move it.
Right, but the subject of the first paragraph is not the same as the subject of,
Yeah,
It's-
I misread that, Ian.
Yeah.
My statement of redundancy, I withdraw because the first paragraph is talking about the superintendent's preparation and the procedure for involvement of representatives of the community, students, administrative staff.
Right.
That's what that's referring to, whereas the second is the actual budget, so. But maybe we could send it back.
Yeah.
But it's going back
Yeah,
anyway.
It's going back anywhere. Yeah.
yeah,
So-
and I'm foreseeing a couple of like subtitles or headers in these paragraphs to clarify exactly what the subject of the paragraph is.
While you're doing that, check out Board of Education.
We're gonna send the whole thing to you for review,
On that
Dr.
last
Ackerman.
Paragraph.
All right, so Bev, am I on the right thing? I should just withdraw that and we'll let them work it out?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so you have to withdraw
I
your second.
withdraw my second.
All right.
All right. So the motion then is
Back to committee.
well, I mean, do we want to vote on the first reading so it doesn't
Yes.
All the
come
process.
back two more
I would
times
think so.
after this?
I know Irene would appreciate that because we
Yeah.
have the auditors in. We want to clean this up and get it ready for them.
Yeah, we can approve a first reading, even though we understand it's going back. for
Yeah.
edits.
We'll get it
All right.
done though before December.
As
So-
amended and noted.
Sure.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to approve policy P 3120 budget document as a first reading. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 As amended.
As amended
As amended.
with Ian's.
As amended and noted.
I'm sorry, as amended. Yes.
Aye.
Let me restate that. The motion is to approve policy P 3120 budget document as amended as a first reading. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Oh,
Mike's back.
Mike's back. All right, so that passes. All right, I can't have you read it. Ian, would you like to read the motion for item 5?
Yeah, sure. I make a motion to approve policy 3150, adoption of budget as first reading.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Well, there was a paragraph that was taken out from the modified versions that I sent in to the administration, and I would I'm gonna project up the other one real quick here. See 3150. There it is. All right, so can everyone see that? I'll zoom
Yeah, if you
in.
can zoom it a little.
Should have came to policy.
Mhm.
He should have came to policy.
I know, you should would have
Concern.
stated policy. I thought you approved
Yeah.
all the others.
Yeah, he wanted to move it on forward.
Yeah.
but-
Well, yeah, I figured that we,
Not part of
it's a-
policy?
yeah,
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's not.
but he left. If he would have stayed at policy, we could have had all this done.
So is
So-
that in the blue that you're showing us, the light blue?
the green ink is the paragraph that is missing from the agenda package version.
Do you mind reading it out loud? My eyes are going on me.
So everything else is the same. It's just the last
Yep.
paragraph says, such modifications, if required, shall be decided upon in a manner similar as the budget, as the board working in conjunction with the superintendent and other administrators of the school district as needed, with a full vote by the board to ratify the changes.
Well, it does say in the paragraph right before that if reductions are made by either the board or town council or RTM, the superintendent shall prepare final budget recommendations for the board to review, modification if needed, and approval. Such budget shall reflect changes made from the originally approved education budget to remain within the reduced figure ultimately approved by the legislative authority.
Oops.
So that's how it ends there. Am I looking at the right one? 3150, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're reading. Yeah.
Does that not say it?
Yeah, what is the intent of the green?
Should we just send these back to policy and see?
No,
Yeah.
no, actually, I'll take it back. That's the last major change that I noted of a missing paragraph. And honestly, yeah, I think that was, let's see, if needed and approval. Yeah, never mind. Forget about it.
Okay.
We'll go with 3150 as written in the package.
Any other discussion on that?
I moved the question.
If there's no further discussion, the motion on the floor is to approve policy P 3150, adoption of a budget as a first reading. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. All opposed? Abstentions? So that passes. Dr. Whitney, would you be willing to read the motion for item 6?
I'm actually not in a spot where I can read.
Okay, no, that's fine. Just wanted to offer.
Thank you.
Uh,
I
Yeah.
do. Okay.
Okay.
Motion to approve policy P3160, transfer of funds between categories amendments as a first reading.
Second.
Right. Any discussion on this one?
No, this was fully CABE. Clear and succinct, I think.
I have a
We
question.
start with that.
The crossed out red language on the back, where did that language come from?
That was, I think, the original language that was in it before this latest update.
So that wasn't our current policy, right?
No, it was in our current policy, but based on old legislation, not on the more
And I think
updated
all of
version.
these account titles and numbers are out of date.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was an old policy.
It was an old policy,
Very-
yeah.
It was revised in 99, adopted in 90.
It was revised in 2004, so
Or was it?
October 12th,
Oh, yeah.
2004.
I didn't get that far enough. You're right. So any discussion on this one?
Yeah, I'd have something.
Okay.
By my count, I mean, the 3160 was not one of the ones that we had prioritized because I was like having to do transfers as like budget management on the on the backside of the budget deliberation process. So
I think Irene had said this was one that she wanted to get completed and more accurate before the auditors took a look at the old version from 2004.
Yeah, she wants to update it.
She wanted
Yeah,
it to be
because some
in
of the,
sync with the new
some of the policies
legislation.
comes from the administration.
Right.
So this came from not you, Eden, it came from the administration.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything beyond that. I mean, there are some technical things, but again, like I don't want to take up time now. I'd rather, get it updated to what's current, and we can always bring it back if there's something else of concern once we
Okay.
get into budget mode.
Adrian.
Yeah, I do have one, on the second sentence. It says all transfers of funds between accounts of the budget shall be in harmony with law and shall be approved by the superintendent. Does that wording mean that the superintendent can really move money anywhere in the budget?
It has to be based on law.
Well, yeah, but the superintendent could move it from like salaries into supplies or something like that. Does that
Goes
sentence
on to
allow for
say
that?
when the board has to approve. So it talks about notifying the board may transfer any unexpended or uncontracted portion of any appropriation for school purposes to any other item of such itemized estimate.
Unexpected, yeah, but that's kind of a different statement, right? And then there's talk about an emergency circumstance.
Right.
But this is just saying that the superintendent can transfer funds between accounts. And in my own opinion, it should be the board that would authorize transferring funds between accounts.
So you wanted to say, she could, with board approval or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way, and then there's some language in here to deal with emergency situations. So if the superintendent had to make a decision because
Right.
there wasn't enough money in an emergency situation, then that's fine. But to kind of go back, like if we're over on salaries in the beginning of the year, the superintendent can't just move money from somewhere into salaries without the board approving that.
Mm.
So that would be my own.
This all came from the Cape. Because the old language was education shall have the sole authority to approve such transfers, and transfer between functions shall be made without prior authorization by formal written resolution.
Yeah.
I think the old language, while these accounts might be completely out of date.
I think we had Floyd look at this though.
Jay,
You could
actually,
make an amendment.
if I could jump in real quick, I'm just reviewing some notes here, and actually, I'm glad we're having a little extended conversation on this because, I can send some documents forward. CABE actually had 3 levels of scrutiny. They had 3 different versions of this function of this policy, and they had different levels of rigor and restriction, I guess, on movement of money, and some were very permissive, and others were more rigorous. So there was like a 3-tiered system, and I would and there's also some thresholds mentioned, which I don't see the thresholds in this, as far as like the amounts that can be done non-emergency and versus what would trigger like a full board vote. And I see budget functions being sliced out. I mean, these are the function codes. These are the big ones. The other one, categories and amendments, the 3,200. That was like a lesser. If I'm looking at these notes correctly. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily.
I really can't support even voting on this as a first reading.
Yeah, this is like a deeper dive, and it is budget management, so that's why I put it on the front burner.
policy.
Yeah. Yeah, like if we have any doubts and it's not clear, let's send it back to policy. Let's not
Yeah.
even have a discussion. So like, let's send it back to policy and then hopefully the people in policy can like address like the concerns.
You want to withdraw your motion?
Yes.
Okay. And who was the second?
Um,
Thanks.
If I did, I'll withdraw my second.
Joan probably knows
Oh,
if she's
you
still
with
there.
me?
I'm listening, and it was Bev.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
So you should always second
No,
everything.
we are withdrawing the motion.
Just for clarification, in future, is it possible if there are items that are deleted out from the committee, between the committee and the meetings here, can we just have those as like side notes or something? Like some of the things Ian was showing us tonight. It would be nice to have that wording ahead of time.
Yeah, that was.
And I
It already-
sent my stuff around.
Process.
That
I
was
have a
in
whole
front of the
batch.
policy committee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it'd be
We'll
great.
send that
if you
back.
have it. But I can send out the email again that had, like what I called the merged documents that had the blue, the red and the green and the black. And that's where actually I got in, like I did have a 3160 and a 3200 that was included in that package. That discussed thresholds and the difference between functions and categories. So, I'm glad we're drawing this and sending it back to committee. It's a little deeper dive.
all right. So Bev, did you want to read the motion for item 7?
To approve policy P 3323, soliciting prices, bidding requirements as a first reading.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Adrian. Any discussion?
This is in line with what the town does.
Okay.
So Irene wanted to make sure that we were basing on town charter and how the town operates to
Okay.
get it more in line. So, and she's really doing a terrific job explaining the quotes and the bidding and making sure that everybody is following the protocol, even though this is kind of updated. We're following what we had been doing, but this is going to give us a little more leverage to deal with numbers that are in line with what the competitive bids are happening in the town. So that's the biggest change, in that it's also written and updated based on law.
Mm,
The references are updated.
mm. The section that says the superintendent shall notify the board chair or vice chair as soon as possible and the entire Board of Education at the next regular meeting. In the day of email and instant communication, I really think that should read that everyone should get that information at the same time.
Okay. I mean, that's what we typically do.
Right.
I agree with that. Yes.
Just,
I
The
want
old-
to note, oh, sorry, we still
no, I
going,
was just
Jay?
gonna say the old days that, we only meet once a month and we don't talk about anything in between. They're gone. Now we talk about it all the time. So I think that should be in line with that.
Does the town discuss to the policy members, does the town have anything about like, minority owned businesses, like women, or whatever it may?
Hmm.
Are we large enough to like have to?
Well, that's a very good question.
I don't see anything.
Well,
here.
it says requirements concerning the awarding of contracts to small contractors, minority business enterprises, individuals with disabilities, and non-profit corporations pursuant to this CCS.
CCSG, okay.
Third paragraph, Jen.
So that there is that language in
Okay.
there.
Okay.
And of course, suppliers shall be invited to have their names placed on
Great.
electronic mailing list, and so that we make sure that we reach out and make it a fair process. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what, sorry, I missed that.
No, that's okay. I understand your point, though.
These are the kinds of policies that make me wonder why we have to copy and paste a policy that could then change tomorrow, why can't we just have a policy that says we will follow all relevant policies and regulations of,
Because sometimes
The
you might
town.
miss out on some of the specificity that's in the law. I think sometimes that language is helpful when you got a policy. Otherwise, you're going back to Mooney's book all the time saying, okay, so what did that say? And it might not be so clear. So I think it just helps us pay closer attention.
If I could just jump in real quick, I just wanted to note that this P 3323 also is not, this did not come from the budget ad hoc committee. This was administrative referral.
Right, and it's also because of the audit happening and the number of quotes and bidding process that's happening right now. So we really want it to be systematic with everybody and everybody have a clear understanding. So it's done just with respect to making sure that we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's.
So I'll make an amendment to, I'll make a motion to amend the last sentence of the first paragraph to say the superintendent shall notify the board chair or vice chair. Or I should
Well,
say.
why don't we just say the Board of Ed?
Yeah, shall notify the board as soon as possible via email and then report
We have to say.
the event at the next regular board meeting.
I can second that. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, so all those in favor of the amendment for immediate notification of the entire board in this emergency situation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So that passes. Any other discussion about the main motion as amended?
One thing is, I just have a question how this ended up, but when they talk about opening bids and the previous version, it said it was open to the public and now it just says open to bidders and other interested persons.
Hmm.
Does that mean it's not going to be public, that the bids are going to be open? Or when the bids are going to be
No, the
open?
bids are always a public knowledge, but I mean, not everybody, the public, Joe Public might not be able to apply for every bid. It would have to be for the people who have that serve in that entity that can deliver that kind of service.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if the public did want to be there when you were opening the bids,
Oh,
I mean, that's what it said. It was open to the public in the previous policy, and now it doesn't say that. And
Huh?
more thinking of like if
that's what the RFP is
the
for,
media
right?
wanted to be there or something.
Yeah, that's for, the RFP is open to the public, right? So.
It just says in the old document, I believe it said that it was open to the public for when the bids were open. And I don't really know that I have an opinion one way or the other. I was just wondering why it was different.
I mean, I can just double check on this, but the RFP is made public.
Typically, in my experience, because I came from in two previous places where I worked, we followed a policy that, I mean, I can't say it's identical word for word, but pretty similar to this policy. You know, we put it out for bid or like RFP that was made public on our website. And, you know, it just followed that particular, like a process like that. So it, as Superintendent Austin was explaining, it's open to those organizations, institutions that would qualify, not, you know, that provide that service. It's not open to, you know, any member of the public, because not everybody would offer that particular service. For example, if the curriculum office was looking to purchase an assessment system, and it would be over a particular amount of money, we would put out a bid for that and solicit quotes, et cetera. But we're not going to, we wouldn't be going into the facilities. We wouldn't be, soliciting from Sam's group of individuals, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I think that this, I agree, but I think that this was talking about something else. It says bids shall be opened and all right, so you basically give a sealed envelope with your bid. And they're just saying that, so say you had a construction project for $1 million and people were really interested who won. That should be a very public thing. So that
Oh,
no
you're
one
saying
feels like
afterwards.
they were
Okay.
slighted,
How does that work, Sam?
So now do you publish that on the website? The bids will be, well, it's in the RFP, bids will be open on such and such a day, such and such a place, this address. It's open to the public. So do we want to memorialize that in the policy? It's practice. Do we want to memorialize it in the policy?
And we're sure it's not in there.
Well, it
I'm
says.
sorry, I missed what Sam said. Did he say that it's, that this is posted, so that we have posted things like that in the past?
Yeah, and it's open to the public. The bid open.
And that's announced on our website? Is that posted on their website? Is that our practice now?
Or is it part of the RFP? Part of the RFP. Yeah, the RFP will say.
Which is posted on the website.
Yeah, which is posted on the website. So it'll say the bids will be opened.
Well, that goes back to the RFP is the instrument that acknowledges that.
I mean, it says other interested persons shall be invited, but what's an interested person? I guess versus just saying open to the public.
Open to qualified businesses.
Well, it should, the purpose though, right? It's just so that
So
that
that
everyone
everyone
feels that
knows.
they got a fair shake.
Yes, exactly.
That's bidding, and the public in general knows that it was a fair bid.
We're bidding the bus contract for any bus company can get that is interested in the bus contract. Whether they bid on it or not, really, but the ones who do bid on it usually come and see it.
So it does say bids shall be opened at a time specified and all bidders and other interested persons shall be invited to be present.
Well, I guess I mean, I'm sorry. Like I'm hearing like two different things being said here. One, there's some discussion about like the posting of the RFP for and inviting people to bid. And then there's Adrian's concern about, if I understand correctly, when and where the bids are open and having the public broadly invited to come witness the opening of the bids. Is that
Right.
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
And that date and time is in your RFP when you.
Right,
out.
but that's only for those people who read the RFP,
Right.
Well,
to have
those
like.
might be the interested ones.
It's published in the paper.
Yeah.
It's like a,
Oh, it's in the paper.
it's like a
something more
foreclosure.
broadly.
When a house is being foreclosed, I can go to the foreclosure, the hearing, what bidding, but I don't have to bid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, this is the same thing. The bidders can go and anybody else that's
All right. So
interested can go.
it's standard practice that date is going to be in the RFP.
Right.
But is it
Is the
published somewhere else?
confusion about bids shall be open at the time specified and all bidders and other interested persons shall be invited to be present, or should it just say, and the public is invited to be present?
I mean,
Instead of
I
interested
think this is
party.
first reading. We could just, if everyone agreed that it should somehow include the public, we can let the committee figure that out.
I think that's
Well, the
fair.
public to me would be any interested person.
Yeah, but they have to be
That's the
it says that they have to be invited.
I don't know about the.
Well, don't put the word invited
Yeah,
there.
so let's just
Invited.
say we want public and let the committee work it out. If everybody kind of agrees with that.
Why would we change it?
Well, because it did say it specifically in the old policy, it does now,
I said what?
that it would be held in public.
It should be open to the
So,
public.
Yeah,
That should
so
be my
maybe
view.
just a sentence after this.
Yeah.
This bid opening process shall be conducted in public.
And maybe
And
like,
make-
some note of like how. it's-
Yeah, I like that.
Go ahead.
All right, so do we want to make a motion? I don't know how to word it now. I'll make the motion and then Jay did you have the wording worked out?
Well, I was just saying, you can send it back.
All right,
Unless
let's just send it back and you guys.
They
All right.
now
I'm taking
know.
notes and we also have it on tape.
All right. All right.
In case.
All right, any other discussion?
Right, I just wanted to
Back to committee.
emphasize real quick that, my understanding of what Adrian's concern is that, there also needs to be like some public notice that is beyond just the back pages of an RFP, but like, is broadly on the website, like, hey, by the way, these bids are gonna be open. So like,
Or
when
in the
we,
beginning,
that's how we would
Yeah.
invite the public, is like by a public notice.
Right, and he said it's in the
Paper,
newspaper,
yeah,
and you said it's also on our website? So,
okay,
Okay, website and newspaper. That's good. Thank you.
back to committee.
That's a good
all
one.
right.
Glad you stayed,
So,
Sam.
if there's no other,
You should know all about
Need to
this
be on
stuff.
Policy again.
if there's,
Yeah, no, just-
if there's no other discussion, then the motion on the floor is to approve policy P3323, soliciting prices, bidding requirements as a first reading.
As
All those in
amended.
favor, as amended, I'm sorry. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Yes.
Abstentions? Right, carries. Adrian, would you like to read the motion for item number 8?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve policy P3432, monthly budget and expense report / annual financial statement as a first reading.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Thomas.
Come on, Jen, get that hand up.
All right, so
Just sitting
is there
here.
any discussion on this?
I have something. Oops. Is that up? Can you all see the blue ink one?
Just send it back to committee, that's how it's gonna go.
If it's not, like,
So there's just some of this had to do with like what Ray suggested at times and also what a lot of people were talking about in more detail in the monthly reports. Getting straight grant information. Now, I don't know if that would be like regulation. Is that the contention?
Yeah, I
this-
think so, Ian, but I think that you've noticed that we've gotten more detail as the board has suggested. We may have had a couple different people spearing the business, heading the business office, but I think you've seen that we've kind of come out with some different kind of reporting that makes it a little clearer or gives you more insight each month. Like Ray started it and then Irene continued it. And then they have a little narrative section that kind of wraps it up for you. So I think it looks better to me than it did about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. But if you want us to look at that for regulations, we certainly will.
So
Yeah,
I'm seeing
maybe
your
that,
second- I'm seeing your second paragraph was included.
yes.
You have it in blue, we have it in green. The last one, we do post every month.
Okay.
Yeah,
We post the financial statement as part of our minutes. We posted during finance committee minutes and in the regular meeting.
All right. Well,
but we've
again,
also
that's
seen
all-
how it's changed.
right. That's
it's
all
not-
brewing too. Like that all came from Cabe. So, the one thing that in green that I just noted as a difference is that we did put specifically in there like the annual grant reports and, you know, the most recent set. Now, maybe that's more of a regulation thing. But there, you know, when we had, you know, the grant people, we talked about that and they said that it would be pretty relatively easy to forward the grant reports as they submitted, um, that they would just, you know, share that with the board as well. That's what I was.
So those weren't budgetary reports. Those are reports that are necessary that go back to the Department of Defense or Department of Education that really look at the priorities of the grant and what we've said we're actually measuring in the grant. So it wasn't necessarily budget reports for the grant, although that could be something that you could look at each year. You can see how it's been drawn down.
Mm.
So I just don't know which part of that you want to see. And if that is true, then that should be in regulations.
All right.
Of
Yeah.
how-
Yeah. I think now that we're looking at it, I think that is more of a regulation discussion. So, I'm good with it. I'm done.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. The motion is to approve policy P 3432, monthly budget and expense report, annual financial statement as a first reading. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, and that passes. All right, so now on to letters and communications. The entire board received an email about Parent Square and some of the flyers that are coming in on Parent Square. And I had a discussion with the parent who raised it, and you all received a memo today from Susan about the policies around Parent Square, and we may want to refer that back to policy to make sure that
It's
everything's
updated.
up to date on
Yeah.
that. I was assured that nothing is being inserted by the vendor. There's not any kind of monetization of but there's a question of if a nonprofit is attempting to make families aware of something, that they're allowed. In the old days, it came out on a paper flyer, and now it comes out in Parent Square. However, if it's a for-profit, that is currently not allowed by.
We would allow
policy.
it by having them put flyers on the main desk in each of the schools so that an interested parent might be able to pick it up.
So anyway, there's a full memo on that. There was also, I had a discussion offline with a parent about the staff directories that used to be on the old website. And now all that is in Parent Square and Power School so that people can't scrape those emails because there's been a
Number of hacks and
Yeah.
phishing
and phishing
Mm.
schemes. So,
because it's,
so those are not available to the general
solicitations.
public. Yeah.
but
So-
every parent can access, and you know this, in Parent Square or in Parent Square or Power School. You have your child's list of teachers and anybody who works with your child. So it's a push of the button to email them. And certainly the phone numbers are published, so you could call the school if you're trying to find a school librarian or talk to somebody else, you know, so.
So again, everybody got an email covering those issues, and I did reach out to the parent who raised the issues, and I think it would be good to have a district-wide distribution of where people can find these resources. As I previously shared with board members a few weeks ago, I'll be stepping down as chair. It's been my privilege to work with this board. In the past, it was board policy that a chair be reelected each December. And while that is no longer the case, I just feel like the time is right, given other demands on my time, and that we elect another board member to serve in this role. This board has faced many challenges in the past year and will certainly face many more. But it's been a privilege to work with all of you as we serve and support our students. That's all for me. Jen,
Thank you.
communications.
Thank you. For serving as board chair for a year. am looking forward to still working with you as part of the team. I, as many others, attended the CAVE meeting. I just attended on Friday. I ended up picking up a couple of budget books. So Ian, next time I see you, I'll just hand you like the 2 or 3 that I picked. I think it was like Danbury, just a couple of area, Canton, so that you can
Meredith.
have it as the chair of the ad hoc committee. That's it.
Andrea,
I think.
Bev,
Oh, I had a communication, Susan, from a parent about the high school graduation program. And she showed me the program from 2024 and the program from 2021, say. And in 2024, the honor society people and all those people that got awards, some kind of awards. I didn't bring the brochures with me. It wasn't indicated in the program.
In 2024.
Yeah, in this past year. And she was wondering why the school didn't indicate that these kids were valedictorians or whatever they were. And she said she called up and she talked to the assistant principal, and the assistant principal said, well, we didn't do it because we didn't have the money. And she's like, well, it's only ink. That didn't sound like that.
That doesn't sound like an answer.
And I had the email from the assistant principal too, that responded to the
You
parent.
forwarded to me.
So I like to find out why we didn't do that. You know, why the high school didn't do that. And she said, especially since the 2024 group was the COVID group that graduated. And if they did well, some of the kids did well, we should have been recognizing them. And we did it in the past. You had some kind of symbol next to their name, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll find out. Thank you.
And Sam, somebody talked to me also about parking at Northeast Academy. And they said parking when they have a parent event, it's terrible.
Pick up and delivery too. It's
Yeah,
not-
they said that too. And they wanted to know if we can do anything about the parking situation. Nope.
There's one way in and one way out.
There's no room to add any parking over there. We've had a lot of complaints from neighbors that when people, they park in front of their driveways.
Yeah.
You go in and I would get phone calls from people trying to get out of their driveways.
Okay. And the same person talked to me about how long the kids were on the school bus. And I said, well, they're not supposed to be on the bus longer than an hour. And they said, you should check that out because some of these kids are on the bus longer than an hour. So I don't know. I'm not on the bus. So anyway, that's all I have.
Adrian.
All right. Well, Bev, thanks for that. I kind of agree that when it comes to graduation, we should be celebrating academics first. I mean, not that we shouldn't celebrate sports and athletics, but we are graduating kids because of their grades and because of the classes. So I think that should be a focus in graduation. I appreciate you bringing that up. As far as our communications committee, I would like to make a referral so we can have a meeting on this, and maybe we can discuss Parent Square briefly, but I really would like to talk about Title I and specifically the communications required between the district and parents in that Title I grant. So hopefully we can talk about that in a meeting soon.
yes. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Ian,
Thank you, Jay. And I just want to say thank you as well for your service as chair. It's you definitely has been an interesting time, and I think you've helped us navigate our way through it with a civil discourse and a balanced approach. I'm just I guess curious to know the timeline as far as like what it would when do we need to prepare to vote for a new chair? Would it be the beginning of December or the end of December?
I would say it's at the next regular meeting, that would be the first agenda item to select a new chair.
December the 9th.
Unless you want to hold a special meeting right before the regular meeting. So, but yeah, we're talking December.
The regular meeting is on the 9th.
Right.
Not early.
Yeah, because Christmas
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah.
Yeah, I would kind of like to go backwards a little bit, Jay, and also thank you for all that you've done for us. I mean, it has been a tough year, and we've all lost some sleep this year. I imagine that
They
you
lost a lot.
probably lost a lot, and your approach to a lot of things has been great. So
Absolutely.
hopefully from our end, we'll be able to have as smooth of a year.
So to answer your question, Ian, it's pretty quick.
All right, so, yeah, so I guess, I mean, I'm looking at we have a Monday, December 16th, that preview meeting, but then we're looking at the meeting before that, the 9th is the next regular meeting.
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess if that's gonna be the regular meeting, that's when we take action votes, so I guess that would be the time. Seems logical, it's just very quick, but that's life. I wanted to thank Bev for bringing up the graduation, and I definitely would align my comments with Adrian's as well. Celebrating the academics, definitely important, and I would I did I did appreciate the use of the ROTC in the last ceremony as the entry pageantry. And definitely I think moving forward it'd be great to utilize them. I know they've been utilized in a number of ways, but the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. It's
I
it's
couldn't
a
agree
great
with you
program.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. So anytime we get a chance to put them out on Front Street, I'm all in favor. And also with the chords, I'm not sure if there is a thing or if that's in the pipeline with chords and participation in ROTC. Is that a thing that could end up receiving a chord?
I will
Yeah.
check into that. I'm surprised we don't have something.
Right. It's sort of, I know last year it was just sort of a off the cuff kind of thing because it was the inaugural year. And I think the requirement for the chords is some level of achievement over a period of time, like 3 years.
Yeah. Okay, I'll
So,
check with
yeah.
Carrie Hank. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
by
Matt.
next year, we're going to be at that cusp where, people will have possibly participated for 3 years straight. So yeah, it'd be great. Thank you.
All right. And Dr. Whitney.
Thank you, Jay, and a bigger thank you for being our chair. So my communications, I went to the CABE conference on Saturday and attended a session on special education. I found it enlightening. I also, last week went to a Dakota concert at the high school, and Dakota is an organization, I think through Carnegie Hall, that travels through and works with young musicians. And one of them mentioned she had been there a few years ago and worked with at least some of the same kids and noted their growth. So that was a wonderful event. And it was on the same night that the middle school was putting on their play. So it was nice to see Fitch, as usual, being a vibrant place for the community. Those things. And then we brought it up, or someone brought it up at the earlier board meeting. I think it's actually Adrian, about the no parent teacher conferences at the high school. And I've heard people talk about that subsequently too. So I don't know where that was left.
I think I put it in board notes, but I've had a conversation with Matt Brown, and there was some informal meetings that were had that first time, and they're going to make it more formal in the early spring, late winter. When we do it again, conferences at the elementary, middle school, we're also going to have them at the high school.
Yeah,
And
I don't think parents got notice of those informal ones, so I think
the ones who needed to be noticed were noticed. So it was really those kids that were struggling.
I think that's an intervention conference, but this is an opportunity for parents who might want to bring up issues, the teachers to go in. I think that really needs to happen sooner than spring.
Okay.
And then what was, there's one more thing. Oh, this just in the power school, the many people have talked about, they're kind of, there's a lot, power schools very, or not power school, sorry, Parent Square. Those communications are very, very useful and very much appreciated. But there's a lot of them, and so if there can be, and the parent brought up one example, but if that can be streamlined or they can bundled so they get kind of like a weekly notice for you know, community opportunities or for athletics, that would be great. They already do it like News from the Nest. That's a great model to follow. But I mean, as a parent, I get a couple parent squares like every morning and then some more at night. So it's just it dilutes the message, or to have some kind of priority system so that you know this one's really important, like the building secure or lockdown that happened recently. So I've been hearing that from a lot of people for a while, but hearing the comments earlier in the meeting brought
So
them.
I think each of the schools sends out a newsletter like you're speaking of.
Yeah.
That goes home to their parent population. And the district tries to just reserve for kind of the major things. We do send out a School Matters newsletter, usually 3 times a year, and one will be on its way. So I think it's more coming from the schools and maybe the athletic program. But I can see if they can bundle them. But I
Yeah,
do know that those newsletters are done
oh, for
by
sure.
each of the schools. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're appreciated. The information's appreciated. Just if it could be bundled more, that would be
Yeah,
that.
bundle it more. Got it. Yeah,
Not less
I know.
information, just less notices. That'd be good.
Sometimes when
Okay,
you bundle it more, though, you get too much.
true. It's true. It's true. So, but it is a welcome system for sure.
Yeah, we have heard some good feedback, but you're right. It can
Yeah.
be a lot or spread out.
And we're going to talk about Parent Square in communications when we get our annual update.
Yes. Okay.
just
Thank you. So.
I just wanted to say what workshops I went to at
Oh,
Cape.
yeah.
I went to leveraging data to prepare every student for post-secondary success. That was very good. I went to increasing student achievement through high dosage tutoring, which we have in this district, and building safe schools and cultivating a culture for school safety. Susan was at that one. And how to have successful, difficult conversations. Those are the workshops I attended. They were all very good,
They were good.
Yeah.
as was the keynote speaker both days.
Both days. Well, I heard the second one, but I read all about the first one
Yeah,
and heard
it was
about it.
very good.
Yeah.
All right.
If I could just jump back in real quick, Jay,
Okay.
Mike's comments remind me of another thing, a good thing that's happening that I think that a lot of people have communicated to me that they want to see enhanced has to do with the career counseling department. Right now, we only have a part-time career counselor, and that's college and career that helps kids navigate and figure out their way forward. So one of the things I look forward to advocating for moving into the budget season is moving to a full-time, expanding that program into a full-time or possibly a multiple position department, because a lot of kids have a lot of needs and everyone's unique in their own way, trying to find their path forward, and not everyone has the resources to go into the private route as far as like getting college prepared, getting college packages together, or looking at career opportunities post high school. Thank you.
Thank you. The next is suggested agenda items. I don't know if there's anybody that wants to add to our referral list. If you do, I would hope that you could follow up with an email with more detail. Is anything anybody wants to bring up tonight? If not, email is always open.
Well, actually, Jay, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. Could we make? I like that a referral. That I like to get a gauge of the board's interest in expanding the career counseling position into a full-time position.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Did you have something? Okay. Did I
Second.
have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.